Welcome to Theater Advice with OnStage Blog, where we answer all of your questions related to theater. I'm Greg. I am a member of the editorial staff of OnStage Blog, and joining me, as always, Mr. Chris Peterson, the founder of OnStageBlog.com. You've been blogging about theater since 2014, right? Right, and you've also been an active. You've been a director. You've been a producer of community theater. You've worked backstage, front of house. You've also been going to Broadway shows for 30 plus years. We've got wealth of experience to answer any questions regarding theater too. And today's question is about directors and whether you need a thick skin to be a successful actor. But before we get to that question, if you want your question answered by us, you can email us at theateradviceosb@gmail.com. Just include as much specifics as possible in your question and indicate whether you want your name revealed on the air or not. We'll also answer questions we find on Reddit. And today's question is from Reddit, and it is about, excuse me, it is about whether you need a thick skin to be an actor. So Chris, let's show this question on screen and get right to it. So this question is from Reddit user Aphrodite28. And this person writes, I grew up doing theater since I was 6. My director was tough and would often blow up in fits of anger and threaten to take everything away if we don't do better. I moved on to another program where I actually got my part taken away for missing a week of rehearsal to fly out for a funeral. It built me to take theater seriously, and I did well for that. But it also left me insecure, and I eventually left for 5 years. I struggled with regaining my confidence in my singing and dedication to my passions and hobbies. I miss the good parts so much, but I'm so scared to go back, I don't want to be crushed again. What's your honest opinion? Is acting just not for someone sensitive? So Chris, I think there's a couple interesting aspects to that question. Let's start with the last part. To be a good actor, do you need to be thick-skinned?
No.
Not just in terms of dealing with the director, but also just from an audience, dealing with theater critics. Like, is having a thick skin mandatory to be successful, even whether community theater or professional?
No, that's a great question. I mean, short answer, no. You can be sensitive. You can be hurt. You can let things get to you. And the important thing is, how do you use that? So if you get a bad review, if a director gives you notes, if you don't get the compliments after a performance you were hoping for, if you don't get roles, like let's say you keep auditioning, you get rejected, things like that. It's how you use that makes a difference. And if it makes you stronger, if it makes you persevere and tenacious, and maybe and sometimes also helps you correct certain aspects of yourself. Great. That's a positive. Now, if you're someone that, has a thin skin and is like, how dare they say that about me? And then you let it get to you and it destroys your confidence and stuff like that. Then yes, this industry, and to be quite frank, any industry might not be for you, because you might not be able to succeed in working in education and healthcare and sales, if you have a thin skin in general and things like that. So it's how you react, how you respond.
Basically, right. So how do you use that? You could use it to get better, just in a very simplistic fashion, whether it's criticism or a tough director, to really challenge yourself to be better and be more dedicated. Or you could use it, right, for inspiration for acting, right? You can remember that those feelings that are created inside of you, can use that to fuel, certain acting, certain characters, that you need to perform as, right?
100%. Yep.
What do you feel about this director that he's dealt with specifically? Just to kind of read the question, this director would blow up in fits of anger, threaten to take everything away. He said this person said their part was taken away for missing a week of rehearsal. Let's take that one by one. Is it appropriate to take away a person's part if they have to miss a week due to family reasons, personal reasons?
Absolutely not. Now, if there were other reasons that are unprofessional and is on the actor, then yeah, absolutely punish the actor. I've been in situations where I should have had things taken away from me based on my actions that were unprofessional and stuff like that. And that would have been justified. But in this situation, absolutely not. So this to me reeks of a director that either has a very high opinion of themselves or believes that is the role of the director. I am supposed to be
Mm.
a prison ward. I'm supposed to be a general. I'm supposed to be a headmaster in a way of a
Right.
production, as opposed to a guiding force, a resource, a place of support and trust. Um, it is a very much a generational thing in theater. You're seeing a lot less of those bullies nowadays, as opposed
Yeah.
to decades ago, where that was more widely practiced and accepted.
Right. And why do you, well, actually, let me get to the other part of it because that really more connects to my follow up, which is we hear stories all the time, especially from community theater directors who act like they're, a dictator on the set, yelling, throwing things. My God, we even hear about this in kids theater,
Kids theater,
like
school theater, yeah, all over.
like I'll be blunt. Like my daughter's theater camp last year, the director was throwing things and yelling and having fits at 6-year-olds to 12-year-olds on set. So this particular part isn't new, but what's the threshold where an actor says the problem's not me, it's them, and either they say something or they walk away? Like, if what's that red line of what's appropriate and what's not, just when it comes to the director's treatment of the actors?
Yeah, I think it comes from a place of context of when it's happening. So if it is final dress and no one knows their lines and they're acting like a fool and no one's taking it seriously, I've been there. I've been in those rehearsals. Yeah, a director, especially in a school production, absolutely raise your voice and get into teacher mode. And but there's ways to do it in a constructive manner that's going to have change. And there's the opposite, which just creates fear and resentment amongst your cast.
Can I pick on one word? So you said raise your voice. You didn't say yell. So do you
Mm.
mean so by raising your voice, do you mean yell, or do you want to be
No, I mean
specific
raising.
as
Yeah, that's a
to?
great question. I think there's a difference between raising voice to imply urgency, importance, sternness, frustration. That's fine. Yelling at the top of your lungs, screaming, saying terrible things to your actors, calling them names, things like that, which I've also seen is not the way to go. And that never works because either you create a fearful relationship amongst your actors, which they should never fear a director in the rehearsal process, or you create resentment, and then therefore your cast doesn't respect you. Just like any coach of a team, if you go too hard on your players, you're going to lose the locker room. Same thing
Right,
happens as a cast.
right, right. So it seems like if the cast is not fulfilling their basic requirements, again, goofing off, or they don't know their lines, it would be justified in a sense to go, I wouldn't say medieval, but to yell. We'll just say yell
Yeah,
again,
no, it's
not in a dehumanizing way, but to really show your frustration stuff. Anything, throwing fits of anger if they by mistake flub a line, or if the blocking isn't quite right. Just some of the more nuances of it. That's sort of crossing a line.
and even
Is that
even
fair to
stuff that's
say? Fair
not
summation?
yes, even stuff that's not so extrovertedly aggressive, but more passive aggressive is equally wrong. So I'll throw myself on a sword. Early in my directing experience, I used to keep a tally on my notebook of how many lines actors screwed up. And I would tell them at the end of rehearsal how many lines they screwed up. So I'd be like, Jim, you screwed up 14 times. Emma, you screwed up 11 times. We need to be better. Um, that was not the right thing to do. That was absolutely not the right thing
Did
to
you
do.
like a swear jar every time they flubbed a line? They had to throw a quarter in or something?
No, but I just kept reminding them of numbers. And so what happened was when I did that, it became more about getting the line right as opposed to getting the emotion of the characters, saying the line the correct way, being present in the scene. And it all just became about memorization. And that's the wrong way to do it. And I changed that very
Right,
quickly.
right.
And things like that. So um that was very important. So I think for a director, it's check your but this all stems from ego. And You have
Mhm.
too many directors out there at every level that feel that they are the next Tony Award winning director. That the show, whatever show they're directing, whether it's a summer camp, high school production, community theater production, is going to transfer to Broadway tomorrow and needs to be perfect. Or they're up for some award that's going to get them some
we
recognition.
we published
Um,
a satire along those lines, and people are like, I know directors that actually acted like that satire. I'm like, we know, that's why we wrote it. Like, this
and I think,
described like dozens of
yeah,
directors we know.
and I think the other problem too is that you have too many mechanisms that allow directors to act like that, where you don't have producers or theater administrators that stand up to these people and say, no, you can't treat people like that. Thankfully, in the past couple of years, we're starting to see more of that. We're starting to see especially at the school level, we're seeing directors being fired for bullying and other issues and things like that. So that's a good thing. But
Right, right.
yeah, it's still a wide problem.
Yeah, so hopefully we've explained to Reddit user and other people watching it. Again, if you're flubbing basic stuff, then you got to take it. But if you're doing the best you can, and this is just a director screaming and yelling because he thinks he's all that in a bag of chips, the problem's not on them; it's on you. So hopefully, you can tell that to yourself. If you need help, seek counseling. We highly encourage that, because sometimes the damages people get from a really bad and abusive director that really hurts, and it's hard to recover from. And hopefully, and seek help. There's no shame in that anymore, especially in 2023.
100%.
Otherwise, best of luck. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just gonna say 100% on the money
Yeah,
with that. Yep.
yeah, but otherwise, just get back in the theater if you love it, and do the best you can and knock them dead. So that wraps up this episode. So if you have a question you'd like us to answer, email us at theateradviceosb@gmail.com. Or you can drop us a comment on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at OnStageBlog. Also, please, if you like this video and you want to make sure you catch all of our newest videos and rewatch some of our older episodes, so hit subscribe, subscribe. We appreciate all the support and all the views, and make sure you check out all of our theater related content at onstageblog.com. We also have a newsletter. You can subscribe on the newsletter. There's lots of great theater content. All right, thanks, Chris. We'll catch you next time.